Hello. Welcome. Welcome to cheating and Slay the Spire. Somber. Alright, cool. Um this is something this is a video I had to make because the things I have to say about this subject are complex and relevant. As a somewhat large Slay the Spire content creator who has any interest whatsoever in having the things that they say be heard by members of the Slay the Spire community. So that's why we are here making a video about cheating in Slay the Spire. I'm not going to try to be accusatory in this video. I'm not going to name any names. Indeed, I am not intending to leave you with the belief that anybody is cheating. Or at least not anybody specific. But I feel like people are just mind-bogglingly naive and trusting of things that people say about Slay the Spire. You see this in the YouTube algorithm, you see this in claims that people make about things they've done in the game, and I just wanted to give you my framework for both behaving as a player who is good at Slay the Spire, who plays it, and interpreting the things I see other people do. Maybe it will be useful to you, maybe it won't. I don't know. But that's what this video is about. The first thing I want to address is why do I need to make a video like this? Why is Slay the Spire vulnerable to cheating? The naive and happy thought is that Slay the Spire is a very friendly game with very little real competition, and people are just here to try their best, and it's really fun to keep improving and pushing yourself, so on and so forth. And that is a narrative which is very happy, and which I would personally love to believe. It would make me really happy to exist in a community like that. But that isn't really what I've seen over my time in the Slay the Spire community. And not what I've seen in strategy gaming communities in general over the course of my life. And I would say that the reason that Slay the Spire is vulnerable to cheating is the same as why any competitive and challenging strategy game is vulnerable to cheating. If you look at any game like this, you're going to see cheating scandals, you're going to see that people who are at the top or near the top have cheated or have been accused of cheating, or people have come out of nowhere to set new world records in some speedrunning group, and then their world record has had to be banned because it's spliced, or things like this. This is endemic to strategy gaming. Billy Mitchell is a household name. Karl Jobst is a household name. Maybe not quite as much. I don't know. Anyway, a lot of people who come to Slay the Spire, one thing that's interesting to ask is why is someone who's really interested in competition choosing to play Slay the Spire competitively? Isn't that kind of an interesting question? It's kind of an interesting question. Slay the Spire is a single-player game with no way to support competition. There's no tournament circuit, there's nobody making all the rules, there's nobody recording all the results, there are no prize pools for doing well in tournaments. And yet, you see a lot of discourse about Slay the Spire centered on who are the best players, what is the best achievement anyone's done, who's got the world record win streak, stuff like that, which is cool. That's exciting. But why would somebody who wanted to be the best at a competitive game, or do things nobody had ever done in a game or whatever, be drawn to Slay the Spire, which again is a single player game with no competition and no support for that, really? I've been doing yard work and the door's been open, and there are so many critters who have gotten in. Anyway, well, it's just going to be a distraction for the video, I guess. Rest in peace. I need to get one of the little zappy things. My hypotheses are that there are two main reasons that someone who's really interested in a competitive, challenging, complex strategy game comes to Slay the Spire. And one is the reason that I came to Slay the Spire, which is that I like complex and challenging strategy games, but I don't like competing with other people. I want a game which can beat me up for like 10,000 hours, and I will still have something challenging waiting for me to learn or overcome or whatever. And I want to get to enjoy that game without having to deal with, frankly, most of the things that are in this presentation. I don't want to have to deal with people like calling me names and saying somebody else is better than me and cheating in a match against me or cheating just in general. I don't want any of that noise. I'm in Slay the Spire because I left Magic the Gathering because someone cheated against me so egregiously that I was just like disgusted and never wanted to play it again. And I'm in Slay the Spire because I left poker, because I had a high stakes coach just straight up tell me that it was stupid for me not to be cheating in a way which would make me thousands more dollars per month. While I tried to be like, but that's cheating. That's against the terms of service of the site. You're not allowed to do that. Well, he was just like, you're an idiot. I'm in Slay the Spire because I got really into FTL and was really into like no pause format of FTL, which was kind of honor based because it's a game where you can hit escape to open the main menu to freeze the game as much as you want. But like, to my understanding, people were competing at that category in a way that didn't involve doing that. And then someone like blew all of the previous records for that category out of the water. And I watched their videos and they were doing it. Like they were pausing the game every 10th of a second by spamming the escape button to get their inputs exactly at the right time. That's the reason that I'm in the Slay the Spire community. So there are lots of reasons in my history as a gamer that have like taken me away from communities I was previously in where I found challenge appealing into this community where I can play a single player game. It doesn't have to involve caring about what other people are doing or what their achievements are. I don't have to play against them. Basically, if somebody else is cheating at this game, I'm trying to make it have as minimal impact as possible on my life so that I can just enjoy the game and enjoy the community and stuff like that. That's a big part of why I'm here. The second reason that I hypothesize some people are drawn to Slay the Spire who want to compete a lot is that there are no rules. It's like the Wild West. If you want to like make a fortune and play off the cuff and stuff like that, act badly, etc. Going to a place where they have a tournament circuit with judges present who will enforce rules doesn't permit you as much freedom as going to a place where that doesn't exist and you can set the rules that you want. And so we've seen some very large and community-forming personalities come into Slay the Spire, some of them staying, some of them leaving, and kind of like warp what competition is around their own vision of what competition should be, involving like judgments of other people based on whether they can do that thing or not. This is as good a time as any to point out that there is no thing you're meant to do to be good at Slay the Spire. Some people might say winning at Ascension 10 as often as possible is what you do. Some people might say winning at Ascension 10 as many times in a row is what you do, but other people want to speedrun or play the daily run or just ascend from 0 to 10 as fast as possible. And other people think that being good at Slay the Spire is like playing at Ascension 0 or 1 and enjoying yourself, and that's fine. Like there's no extra validity to any one of those options. So if somebody wants to be the best at something and they come into Slay the Spire, I've seen that there's a decent amount of the time something that happened in the previous community they were in where they were really frustrated that people wouldn't just say they were better than everybody else or something like that. And so they came to Spire and started like saying, no, like I am better than everybody else. Look, I can do this thing in Spire, and that means that I'm better than everybody else. But meanwhile, like, you know, there's no tournament circuit. You can't like go to a page and see that they are #1 in prize winnings for Slay the Spire or something, because this isn't a game that's played competitively. So, people like that, in particular, I think, are prone to be cheating at the game in some way. It's also a game which is decompilable on your computer. For all the reasons that we can mod the game to make awesome mods, which are really enjoyable to play around with and stuff, people can mod the game to cheat, and they can do it in ways which are undetectable, or they can do it in ways which are detectable and just be brazen about it. So it's easy to cheat, there's nobody stopping you from cheating, and it's the sort of game where you can feel really smart if you win a lot, which you might be able to do by cheating. These lead to Slay the Spire being the sort of game that is vulnerable to people cheating at it. Now, I'm going to talk about 5 types of cheating, and you're going to have to excuse me a little bit, because the first 3 types are maybe not exactly cheating in your head. But to me, I don't know what word to call them other than cheating. You could say that you're being like socially dishonest for some of these things, or something like that. I don't know, but it's just kind of like, the last time I was talking about this, I was like going through like times that major cheating scandals in my mind had happened, and then I was like, is that even cheating though? Like, that's not really, that's just like lying, isn't it? Like, not really cheating. It's like, if you imagine you're like at a card game tournament or something, and someone like stacks their deck and then a judge catches them, they're clearly cheating, right? But Slay the Spire has had things happen which would be comparable to like you're at a card game tournament and someone just like walks into the top 8 and sits down at the table and is like, I qualified for the top 8. And they didn't. And because there's no structure and there are no judges and there are no rankings or whatever, nobody can tell them that they need to leave. And calling that like cheating doesn't make quite as much sense, because we contextualize cheating within these frameworks of rules and things where something like that would just never happen. But in Slay the Spire, it does happen. Things like that do happen in Slay the Spire. Like a tournament ends and then someone says like, I won, and you look at the tournament results and they like dropped in the 6th round. But in Slay the Spire, they can do that and say they won, and a lot of people will listen to them. Yeah, and so that's one of the types of cheating. The first 2 types are kind of comparable, but type 1 is just being wrong. And this is like the least damning type of cheating, because like it might just be unintentional. People just might be misunderstanding things. But one way that people at least effectively cheat, in terms of like how it affects me in my life, one way that people cheat in quotation marks at Slay the Spire is that they claim things about themselves or the game which they have absolutely no ability to actually claim. And it's extremely common, and the community at large doesn't defend itself against it in any way. In fact, if people make exaggerated claims about their abilities and achievements in Slay the Spire, the community tends to spread those claims algorithmically and virally, rather than examining them and seeing if they're true or not. So, some ways that I've like kind of struggled with this recently. One of the reasons that I already talked a lot about why I'm making this video, but like the moment I think where I was like, oh, I have to make this video, was I've been like playing the game and I've been feeling like I'm kind of like not doing that well. People keep on saying that like people have 20 streaks in the game and people are like winning basically every run and never losing and stuff like that. And I wanted to like make sure that I had things of value whatsoever to say, like just a little sanity check for myself as a player of the game. Because I think realistically my win rate is in like 65 to 70% kind of range playing at the level which I'm playing. Could I push it higher? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't done that. But like, I was like, is 65 to 70% just like absolutely terrible right now? Like, I know I'm like having some fun and not like slowing down and things, but am I just like completely off base for everything in this game? Because people kept on being like, oh yeah, it's like everybody's just getting 20 streaks and stuff, and everyone's like winning almost every run. And so I like looked up people's results, and they just weren't that good. Like, they were good, don't get me wrong. There are people who have better results than me in Slay the Spire so far, but like, the game isn't like super easy and everyone's winning every time and people are like proving that the game can't stand up for itself or anything like that. Like, that just isn't true. People are winning like 70 to 80%, maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly, and my like perusal of the data was not fully thorough. That's going to be a point later in this video. But like, yeah, people are saying that they're winning a ton. That's what's happening. People aren't winning a ton. People are doing things like claiming that they can win 95% on a character, but they haven't done that. Which is different from actually winning 95% of the character, right? In looking through this stuff, okay, one of the ways in which this becomes my problem, in ways which really frustrate me, is when people make claims about something that I care about, and usually that doesn't happen. Usually that has to be something like somebody on their stream is talking about my win rate and just making shit up about my win rate, which has happened a surprise, like way more than you might think over the course of my life as a Slay the Spire player. And I apologize to people who are really good at the game, who are maybe actually genuinely winning more than 80% at the game right now. I think it's probably possible eventually. I was not able to find the evidence of it in looking at the like social media somewhat thoroughly as a person with a lot of literacy about the game and social media. So I apologize if I missed you, but like, I'm not trying to shit on you in particular. I probably just missed it. I apologize. But sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, Jorbs, he like wins 50% of his runs or something. And I like, this is what like my runs look like. Like, I have all of my runs public. You can look at all of my runs. This isn't a 50%. Neither is any of this. Like, I won like 50% of my runs like here, but I'm like having fun like learning the game. Like, like this is just public. Like, don't make shit up. Another thing that I found that was like just wild was somebody claiming they had spent 10,000 hours on Slay the Spire, and that is wild to me because specifically, very specifically, extremely deliberately, the thing that I decided to say about myself as a Slay the Spire creator when I started blanking Slay the Spire 2 content was that I had spent 10,000 hours on Slay the Spire 1, which is what this person's claiming. And the reason I wanted to claim that is I did like fairly heavy research and looking and checking my own time spent on the game and stuff like that in order to like somewhat strongly feel that that was something that was extremely unique about me in the world. Like, very, very, very few people have spent 10,000 hours or close to 10,000 hours on Slay the Spire. And to my knowledge, this person who was saying that they had spent 10,000 hours on Slay the Spire hadn't. So then I was like, did I just like massively miss that they were spending tons of time on Slay the Spire and I didn't realize? And then I looked and they had like streamed like 2,000 or 3,000 hours of Slay the Spire 1 total. And I was like reading articles online about how they were the best Slay the Spire 2 player and had spent 10,000 hours on the game. Stuff like that just really pisses me off. like I am actually like doing work and like trying to achieve something that I can talk about proudly in a way I think is defensible and which like doesn't step on other people's toes and stuff like that. This is just a true thing about me. Can I copy paste into here? This is my Steam playtime for Slay the Spire 1, 10,246 hours. That obviously includes time that I left the game open overnight, but like I have 8 years worth of YouTube videos on Slay the Spire. I have 8 years worth of vlogs on Twitch showing me streaming Slay the Spire. That was a claim that I made based on a thing I'd actually done, and then I just like read someone else who's saying they're the best at Slay the Spire saying that they've done that and they like haven't. It's just weird. So most of the time, I don't mind super much if people are just wrong about Slay the Spire. It's like an eye roll thing. But sometimes when it like steps on me in certain ways, that's really frustrating and makes me not want to interact with the Slay the Spire community at all. Why is this bad in Slay the Spire? That people are just wrong sometimes. One of the big issues is that nobody's really able to check everyone else's claims. I can tell you, as someone very involved in Slay the Spire in all sorts of ways, I know a lot of the people who stream Slay the Spire personally. I have been kind of like in a co-worker sort of arrangement with a lot of them for several years. As that person that I am, I like couldn't really check the claims that I saw people making. There was nowhere I could go. Like, again, I have this thing available on my stream. It's linked in my stream title every day, and you can go to it, and I have charts showing my win rates and how my win rate has changed over time, which I think is cool. And then I have predictions based on Kalman filters about my win rate, and you can see that like I am starting to have confidence that my win rate is getting toward like 60, 70% kind of ranges. That's cool. So this stuff, this actual analysis of the actual data I've had, is where I get a claim that I'm kind of like winning in the 65 to 70% range. And it's like a defensive claim. It's like a minimized claim. I'm making a claim that's below what I think I could make. This is a way to track my win rate, which updates slowly. So if it's like going up and I kind of know that I'm improving, how could I not be improving? I'm playing a game that's like relatively new and I'm learning things all the time, right? I can kind of intuit that my win rate must be a bit higher than this right now, and it hasn't updated yet, right? I also know factually that a lot of the runs in this win rate were runs where I was like having a fun time and memeing and taking the 1 max HP thing and stuff like that. So I know that my win rate's like at least that so far, right? That's a thing that I really know. But when I try to work out what somebody else's win rate is, when I see people making claims about their win rates, I'm unable to check. I don't really know what people mean. So it isn't okay. And if I'm unable to check that, like I assume that other people are also unable to check that, right? Like that's, I don't know why other people, like just casual viewers of the game in the casual community, would be able to check something like that if I can't work out how to in searching. Anyway, maybe stuff is somewhere and I don't know where it is. I don't know. People are broadly not super great at statistics. My favorite little story about statistics is my first quarter of statistics in college. The professor said, we're going to study statistics for 10 weeks, and we're going to try to give you the basic knowledge in order to interpret and use statistics in the rest of your life. That's the goal of the course, which I thought was like optimistic and bold, and watching people in the class not grasp all the concept, I was like, are you sure? And then in my first class at a graduate level for statistics, like all the undergraduate stuff, and then first graduate level class, the first thing that the professor said was, we're going to spend 10 weeks trying to understand causal reasoning and statistics. Under no circumstances should you attempt statistics outside of this course. If you need to do statistics, hire a statistician. Like, the class was an attempt to get people literate enough with complex statistics to understand that they couldn't do it, basically. And I think it succeeded somewhat well, and that was a really fun class. But yeah, with that experience and understanding, I do understand that people might genuinely believe, for example, that if they win 14 out of 15 runs on a character, that means that they have a 93% winner on the character. They might even be really excited and think like, oh my god, I'm so good already and I can only get better, so I'm going to have a 95% winner on the character soon, or something like that. But what something like that actually means is you had a 93% winner on the character for 15 runs, which is a very different thing. It's much easier to have a 93% win rate on a character for 15 runs than it is to have, present tense, a 93% win rate on the character, as in the next run you play, you will have a 93% chance to win it. if you have like a 70% win rate on a character, you can win 14 out of 15 runs sometimes. You don't have a 93% win rate on the character, but you did have a 93% win rate on the character for the last 15 runs. Anyway, the difference between those two things is genuinely a bit complicated, and I don't know whether people are misunderstanding the difference or taking advantage of the difference to try to promote themselves as players or what. That is unclear to me, but it's sort of immaterial in terms of like its effect that it has on the community, which is it's kind of like you're constantly being gaslit about how hard the game is as a player. Like, you read about people with 90+% win rates on the characters, and you feel like you suck at the game, but the people don't even have 90% win rates on the characters. So what are we even doing here? Possible, by the way, that someone actually has 90+% on silent right now, or more than one person. I could totally believe that. Maybe they have 90+% on other characters and I just didn't see it, but I didn't find evidence that was compelling to me that suggested that other people had those sorts of results. One thing that's nice about a Kalman filter is you can see how much confidence I have about what my results suggest about my true win rate right now. So this is what they think is like the most likely win rate right now, but there's also a 95% confidence band here, where my Kalman filter thinks that my win rate is between 88% on the high end and 35% on the low end. So I guess I could say, like, I have had a 65% win rate estimated over time by a Kalman filter, plus or minus like 23%, because with only 250 coming up runs at Ascension 10, the like variance band is still very high. That's like a thing that I could say that would maybe be even a better way to say it. I feel like just saying that I have 165 to 70% as a past tense thing rather than a claim about the future is an okay thing to say. I don't know. What's the effect of this sort of cheating? One of the major effects of this sort of cheating, I should quotation marks it here because, like, is this really cheating? I don't know. But one of the major effects is that opinions about who is best at Slay the Spire have always been more of a popularity contest than a data-driven exploration. I can say this as a person that a lot of people thought was the best at Slay the Spire for a long time. There were other people during that time who won about as much as me. Maybe I won slightly more than them, maybe they won slightly more than me, but like, it was not like I was 10% more likely to win runs than they were. There were other people who were really good at Slay the Spire during the time that lots of people thought I was the best at Slay the Spire. I've never said I'm the best at Slay the Spire. I was present there and saw that other people were really good too. It's so funny. It's like a norm of every YouTube video I record that someone's in chat looking for a link to my mods. Anyway, oh well. So, I never like said that I was the best Slay the Spire player. I got a lot of achievements that I was really happy about that meant things to me, but one, there's like luck involved in the game, and also like a lot of the achievements are a function of time spent. So like part of me achieving those things was that I was doing the game as a full-time job, so I was able to spend 40 hours a week plus on the game for like 2 years. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm better than other people if, like, I'm seeing achievements which are a function of me having played the game more than other people as well, right? And I still see that. Like, people don't understand how to talk about me as a Slay the Spire player because, like, a bunch of people said I was, like, the best Slay the Spire player in the world, which was, like, if it was true, it was barely true, and, like, likely it was false or nuanced at best. And then a bunch of people stopped saying I was the best Slay the Spire player in the world. My ability as a Slay the Spire player has mostly remained about the same. I've been a really good Slay the Spire player the entire time. I've been playing Slay the Spire and analyzing Slay the Spire as a job the entire time. Largely, what people were saying changed was that other people tried to make a big deal about their achievements and tried to say that my achievements weren't as like big a deal as theirs were. And my response to that was not only to not fight back, like I was to a limited extent pushing back, like that guy like has only played the game for 6 months and hasn't really done that much. I don't really think he can say that he's better than everybody else. But like increasingly, I just like completely moved away from even playing the game in a way which would generate achievements. So in order to generate like a win streak, you want to play lots of runs at a fairly high level, especially if you already have some ones run, right? If you have runs one. If you have like 110 in a row, you want to pay special attention to the 11s and stuff like that. But as people started saying like, no, the people with the best win streaks aren't the best players. Actually, it's the people with the best win rates, etc., etc. Jorbs is terrible because his win rate is bad, etc., etc., etc. I had fairly little interest in trying to like fight about that, and my like response was to turn my stream into a place where I didn't generate many achievements so people could just stop talking about me like that. Like, I like the game, I enjoy analyzing the game. If I've like won 5 runs in a row, I'm not gonna try to like win another 20 super hard. If anything, once I've won like 10 runs in a row, I start looking for a way to meme and lose a run at this point. That is unfortunately where I've ended up as a content creator for this game. And I think a ton of content creators who could be integrated in competitive elements of Slay the Spire, like they could care about going for win streaks or trying to increase their win rates or something like that, don't. Because when it's a popularity contest about who's best and the numbers that people are saying aren't actually supported by data, that's just a very hostile environment to compete and play in. It takes like a very particular sort of person to want to be in that environment. A decent amount of the time, it's like a group of people who are all friends and will all like back each other up, which is kind of weird from the outside. A decent amount of the time, it's someone who's like very ego-driven and somewhat heavily content-driven as well. Anyway, I'm not trying to trash other people. Let's like, maybe I've talked enough about that. Bullet. But yeah, I think it's kind of tragic and very noteworthy that pretty much everyone who has ever been thought to be among the best Slay the Spire players has been a content creator. I just don't think it's true that the best Slay the Spire players in the world have always been content creators. I'm a content creator. I'm also a pretty good Slay the Spire player. I'm just very aware that people who are good at games don't always stream them on Twitch. So that's a thing. But also, we don't even, like, there are a bunch of content creators, not even people who don't stream the game, like people who do stream the game, who have like set world records for the game, who you have never heard of. I don't think, this is on a different slide, but I don't think there's a single person in the world who knows every person who has set a world record in Slay the Spire 1 and Slay the Spire 2 for max difficulty wins. There's no place where they're all collected, and nobody really bothers to go look. So that happens. When instead of agreeing on something that would be impressive and then like maintaining that as a community and like keeping it updated and caring about it, when that is less important than people saying that their achievement is really a big deal and that everyone should pay attention to it and that other people's achievements don't matter, one thing that happens is you like lose history. We don't know anymore who like the first person to get 10 wins in a row on defect on a particular patch was. Maybe that doesn't matter that much, but you sure like look at some other games where they do maintain leaderboards and do care about that, and you see the history of those games and see all of the different names, all of the different people who have contributed to them. And when I look at that, I sure feel like, oh my god, look at that game. There are so many people who are good. That's such an awesome game. That must be such a fun community to compete in, where different people can compete for different things and have that recognized and have it count. And then you switch to Slay the Spire, and instead you have like 10 names of people, some of whom haven't played the game in like 4 years. And in order for someone to like try to get people to pay attention to them and start thinking that they're good, they have to like start publishing YouTube videos claiming that they've solved the game after 3 hours of playing it and are winning 98% on one of the characters and stuff. It's just kind of ridiculous. It's not an awesome vibe for the community. So yeah, when basically it became apparent that my goal in this community, if I wanted people to think I was good, was to say that I was really good, and have arguments with other people about who was good and make a case for why I was good. Like, I don't give a fuck. I like playing the game. So for me, I stopped doing that. I think for a lot of other people, they stopped doing that too. Yeah. How do I try to avoid this? For every type of cheating in quotation marks, I have like some guidelines that I've tried to follow, which I think make the community better. And for this one, the main thing is that I just try not to make claims which I can't support. So when I make claims about character win rates with the intention of being impressive, I try to connect them to actual data. So like, if I have an achievement, which I'm very happy about, say I win 19 out of 20 runs on Silent or something like that, and I'm happy about that, that gives me a little buzz, that's cool. I just say, I won 19 out of 20 of my last Silent runs. I don't try to say more than that. I don't say like, I have a 95% plus win rate on Silent. I basically never lose on Silent ever. Okay, sometimes I say that. Please understand that that's sarcastic. Little sarcastic, at least. I apologize. Oh no, I'm the problem, it's me. It's easy to feel like you always win on Silent because the character is very overpowered, and looking at my losses on Silent, there's like one in the last month or something where I really feel like I couldn't have won that run, and every other one is like, oh, I was memeing or I lost. So to some extent, I get it, and I understand how hard it is not to do this, right? Anyway, if I talk about how much time was spent on the game, I try to connect that to actual time spent on the game in a way I can quantify and show. And I try not to make any negative claims about other people. I am aware that I'm making the video I'm making right now. But something I can say is that in 8 years of playing Slay the Spire 1, and now this time playing Slay the Spire 2, I've never seen evidence in my own play which compelled me to say I was better at the game than other people who played a lot of max difficulty. I've had thoughts that like, oh, I understand something about the game which I could communicate to the community that other people might not understand yet and be able to communicate. But at the same time, there are other people who are better than me at other parts of the game, right? The game is multifaceted. There are individual fights which you can study and understand. There's maximization of every individual card, which you have to slowly learn. Like, you have to understand, oh, this card can be used in this situation. I didn't realize that yet. And somebody else might understand that better about one of the cards than you do. And so this idea of like being better than someone else when there's no tournament circuit and your like skill at the game is not uniform in different areas of the game, it's kind of about highlighting the part of the game where your skill is the highest and you got a particularly impressive result somewhat recently maybe, and just like trying to say that that's what's important. It doesn't feel like an honest assessment of whether you're better than everybody else in the world, which is just kind of a weird conclusion to make. But anyway, yeah. Sometimes I do tilt a bit in response to people saying things which seem unsupported about me. And I feel like that's the main place where I've like bit back and like, it's so hard to, because it's in the context that I'm describing, right? So it'll be in the context of people overstating their results, or one like slightly overstated thing is the thing which goes viral, which then reaches me. And so I'm not necessarily having a conversation with another person who's actually saying the normal things that they might normally say to me. Instead, I'm having a conversation via like Twitch chat where someone comes in, they're like, hey, this person says that they have a 95% win rate on a character and that's way better than your win rate, which is 60%. And like, when the method of communication is that, you're kind of trying to dig yourself out of a hole in terms of making a productive conversation about out of what's happened to begin with, unfortunately. And I feel like I have experienced a lot of people actually making negative claims about me in my life as a Slay the Spire content creator, and so I'm, I think, particularly sensitive to stuff like that happening in a way that, like, I wish I didn't have to be. But I don't feel like it's super, like, irrational or anything. I have a friend who's a therapist who talks a little bit about how a bunch of his, like, clients are stressed about the state of the world for a variety of reasons right now, and how weird. Well, it's not that it's weird, but it's like kind of a unique situation as a therapist to acknowledge a client's anxiety and be like, well, yeah, that's a valid response to what's happening. Like, that's a pretty normal thing for a body to do in response to what's happening. Like, it isn't like an anxiety disorder. It is an anxiety because of the state of the world. And I do feel like when you are a very visible content creator in a community which gets very, like, ego flame war-y sometimes, there are reasonable anxieties that you have, which do reasonably color how you respond to some things. Kind of sucks. I'm a huge fan of it. Type 2 is, like, not that different from Type 1, but I feel like it's, like, kind of canonized in a certain way, such that it deserves its own category. I'd call this cheating by convenient omission. And again, this is a cheating in quotation marks. It isn't cheating per se, but it ends up kind of being cheating for a lot of the reasons I've been talking about. So suppose you play 200 runs and get a result you're really happy with on one of the characters over 20 of those runs. It's fine. It's encouraged. It's awesome to be happy about and talk about that run, right? You had an achievement. You're happy about it. That's great. We should celebrate it. But then it oversteps the claim that those 20 runs are representative of everything about how your play of the game is going, which is what those sorts of things are often used for in the sorts of claims which go viral. So you end up with things like people with 70% actual win rate saying they have an 85% plus win rate because they're basing their claim on one subset of their player instead of their player as a whole. And this happens constantly. This has been happening in Slay the Spire 1 for, like, the last 5 years with regularity, kind of thing. The issue with this is that this is what binomial variance looks like. I supposed that somebody had a 75% win rate. I felt like that was a useful number to give as a display of what results look like if you have a 75% win rate playing a game like Slay the Spire. If enough people with 75% win rate play runs of Slay the Spire, this is a set of 100 runs that somebody like that has played. They'll get like 80 plus wins regularly. They'll get 90 plus wins sometimes. Not regularly, but it happens. And so if people play enough runs, eventually they get a result which is particularly contraindicative to their skill. Contraindicative is the wrong thing to say. It doesn't... Winning 90% of a 100 set of runs doesn't mean that you aren't a skilled player. Not at all. But it also doesn't mean that you have a 90% win rate in general. Winning 90 out of 100 runs, this is the small text, doesn't mean you have a 90% win rate for the same reasons that winning 20 runs in a row doesn't mean you have a 100% win rate, right? When you have the upper bound of your performance and you see that happen, you have to, like, apply some sort of damping effect to that to understand that there's variance in a game like this. If I have 75% win rate and I play 1,000 runs, I'm going to have a set of 100 runs where I win like 85 or more of them, probably. And when that happens, one thing you can do is say, look at me. this is a set of 100 runs I played. It shows that I have an 85% win rate. You might even say, I feel that I was improving toward the end of it, so it's possible my win rate by now is more like 90%. So that is a surprisingly common thing that people say. That's like a meme, a statistical meme in the Slay the Spire community. If you look for it in posts about people's win rates, it comes up like so often. And that's actually just the exact opposite of what you need to do, right? Like, the thing you need to say is like, yeah, I've like played 1,000 runs. I won 750 of them overall. My best output during that time was a series where I won 85 out of 100, which was like a really awesome achievement. And like, my kind of vibe is that if I keep playing, I can get closer to that more often. But so far, what actually happened over 1,000 runs was I won 75% of them. That would be a more like statistically honest way of analyzing what had happened. The result of this sort of cheating, and this is like a very heavy quotation marks cheating, but essentially every achievement in the past 8 years of Slay the Spire has been based on a subsection of someone's runs. Not all of their runs put together, and not a tournament which people agreed was counting, but some subsection of someone's runs that they played. And that is, like, broadly fine if everyone is agreeing on how runs are subsectioned for achievements, but it kind of breaks if people are choosing to subsection runs however they like. For example, if there's a subsection of runs which are played which are in a tournament, and everyone knows, oh, we're going to play like 20 runs and those matter a lot, we're all going to play them. And then you compare how people did in that tournament. That's like a pretty valid way to do competition with no issues. If, however, you're like competing for a 20 streak where you win 20 runs in a row, now you're only caring about a 20-run subsection of someone's runs, and somebody who's played way more runs than somebody else is going to have an advantage to achieve that thing. And so at this point, the way that the subsection is being generated does kind of matter. Now, I think for win streaks, a lot of people kind of understood that like that is an achievement which requires volume output. So it was kind of okay. Like, yeah, that person's played like thousands of runs in order to achieve this 20 win streak, but it's really impressive that they achieved a 20 win streak. So we're going to like celebrate it. Cool. That's awesome. And also, while I cared about competition to Slay the Spire, that wasn't attached to a claim that they were better than everybody else anywhere near as heavily as I feel like it is now. And so that was like extra fine. But beyond win streaks, something that has happened as like algorithmic creep for competitive achievements or whatever has tesserated Slay the Spire. I don't know what the word tesserated means. Maybe it's relevant here. Something that's happened is that people have started like creating subsections of more and more runs in more and more different ways. You have 50 runs that you play on Ironclad, then you have a different 50 runs that you play on Ironclad, then you take like whichever one's better and say that's your Ironclad win rate. You have 50 runs where you boss swap on a character, and if you do really well in those 50 runs, then you're like able to say, I am the best player in the world at playing like Silent with Philostone start. And like nobody else has ever submitted a subsection of runs where they did that, but that isn't relevant or important. Again, it's this thing where like you're trying to make the case that you're doing something impressive. I come back to the Dan Olsen video that I watched about Mr. Beast recently quite a lot. He does this thing where he's recording his video essay and then he reveals as the video essay goes on that he's like recording it in a room with a bouncy castle, and then he's like on the bouncy castle and he has an arbiter there who's like, this is the first video essay filmed in this town on a bouncy castle or something like that. I'm misremembering it exactly. But I'm kind of like reminded of that when I read this stuff. And like, I get it. I get that people are excited to like have a favorite content creator and see that they're doing something really cool and then be like, this means something. And then they try to quantify what it means. And they might arrive at the quantification that it means that content creator is better than everybody else, especially if the content creator encourages that in any way whatsoever. I get that. I know it has happened to me. But But this isn't legitimate competition, right? So if I wanted to compete in Slay the Spire 2 right now, in order to like generate some YouTube thumbnail and video headline or something like that, probably what I would do is I would have from the start probably, I would have focused on one character, which I felt I was really good at. I would have played that character like 8 hours a day. I would have gotten some sort of win streak or achievement on the character, and then I would have made some video online which said, look, I got this win streak on the character. I'm really good at it. Here's a tier list of all the characters' cards, etc., etc., etc. And I think all the way up to there, it's like kind of fine. Like, yeah, someone can do that. That's awesome. But then there's this extra step of like, look at this person's achievement on that character. Clearly, they are the best player in the world and other people are worse than them, which is a step which isn't supported. And allowing that step to happen and playing into that step and stuff like that does have an effect that is kind of like cheating on the community, where people who do that are more likely to have records and achievements recognized and celebrated, and people who don't do that but are just as good at the game as them are getting ignored and stuff. That's, if you think of cheating as creating an unfair advantage for yourself outside of the game, that is what that sort of behavior generates, whether you intend it to or not. And that's not necessarily anybody being nefarious or evil or whatever, but it is pretty exhausting to exist in a community where that happens. How I try to avoid this myself, I try not to present my data in parts. Again, I have like all of my runs available. The link is in the title of my stream. Always, that's something that I'm trying to do. At other times in my life where I haven't been interested in any competition whatsoever, for what it's worth, I'm not very interested in competition right now. What I'm interested in right now is like understanding the game and getting a sense for like whether it's worth it for me to make strategy guides for people. Can I speak from any place of authority whatsoever? And like, if you don't look at it, it feels overwhelming, the things that you hear that people are doing, and then if you look at what they're actually doing, you're like, oh. Yeah, probably I'm fine. God, so many little bugs. Oh my god. One shot, one kill. All right, anyway. Anyway, I try to just present my data to people. This just feels very happy to me. I'm not segmenting my data in any way. I'm not saying like this data doesn't count because I was memeing that day, or I was drunk that day and that doesn't matter, or I was still learning the characters, so I'm gonna cut things off here and then I'm only gonna count the data from this point forward or anything like that. I'm just not doing anything like that. I'm just showing you what someone who's pretty good at Slay the Spire, who's trying to enjoy the game, like what their results are like. That's what my goal is as a content creator. And I just think this is more pleasant. I think. I hope. I think it's also like more pleasant for the community as a greater thing. To just have people be like, yeah, I'm like playing the game and enjoying it, and I'm doing about this well, and that includes everything I've done, including the times I was being silly or learning or having fun, or on the characters I'm not the best at, or on the character I am the best at now, but before I worked out how to be the best at them, or whatever. So, I like that more. I also try to make it very clear that I'm playing the game at a level I find enjoyable and approachable, rather than trying to play the game in a way which is competitive with other people, and that my goals as a player are to slowly improve at the game. Oh my god, there's another. But to have fun when doing so, more importantly. You ever do spring cleaning and it's like, yeah, everything gets clean, but oh my god, there's so much to clean. Just kind of like in a long winter here. So by doing that, I'm able to like hack my way out of this rat race or whatever. I'm no longer like another one of many content creators who is trying to convince you that they are the best content creator at the game, which I think carries with it a huge number of downsides as a content creator. As like a competitive strategy in a content space, trying to be the best at the game and trying to have everyone think you're the best at the game kind of fucking sucks. Like, just being honest as a successful content creator, that doesn't have that much value to people. In order to make a good content for people, I need to like make good content for people. I need to establish to people that I am like in a range of competence that I can say things which will be interesting to them, probably, if I want to say things like that at all. But you don't even have to do that. You can like play modded characters and just have fun, or play multiplayer runs or whatever. Like, you can have a teaching channel which focuses on a new player experience, so you're just kind of like teaching people how to get from Ascension 0 to Ascension 10, which does not require you to be the best player in the world in any sense of imagination. And a strange truth about Slay the Spire content creation is that like some of the people who were doing that stuff are so much better at the game than it looks like they are, because they understand that like the rat race to get people to think you're the best player in the game has like one winner, and the place that winner ends up in is honestly kind of shitty. Just like a lot of drama around it and challenging and everything like that. And the person who generally like rises to the top of the community as a content creator is the person who makes like approachable, enjoyable content, which is like inclusive and which people feel at home with and stuff like that. At times I have tried to be that for Slay the Spire. Another honest thing, like the Slay the Spire community has at times been so toxic to me that I've kind of tried to make worse content for Slay the Spire. Like, I've withdrawn from the content which will like virally expand into the community and just like focused on making exactly the content that I want that serves exactly the audience that I want, because some of the stuff in this presentation happens and it's hard to want to have to interface in it. Like, this is the house I bought because I'm a Slay the Spire content creator, right? It already happened. I already bought the house. I get to like try to work out how to enjoy it and have it be sustainable and have it be a thing that continues in my life now. Okay. Some of these things are being said for an audience of like 10 people who I'm hoping will hear them in a really big way. So if you're a viewer to whom that like isn't interesting at all, I also try to present my recent results as they are the best indicator of what I'm doing now, instead of talking about like, oh, I did this thing on whoever. Like, common frustration is like if you're trying to make subsections of runs that prove that you're really good at a character, what happens if you're doing that is that you are encouraged to stop playing runs in that way once you get a good achievement. Kind of weird, right? But if you think about this, if you have a 75% win rate on a character and you play 100 runs and you get this result maybe, then you can say, oh, I have like an 80 to 85% win rate on the character, until you play more runs on that character. At which point everyone's going to be like, you sure? And so that's something that happens with like increasing subsections. Someone can go like 3 or 4 years without actually playing a character again, so their most recent result that they had on the character, which was very impressive, is the thing that they can refer people to. Or someone can start playing a character in a different way, which is in a separate bucket from the normal way to play the character. Like, instead of playing another 50 runs of a character after they get a result that they're happy with on that character, they can start playing 50 runs on the character where they always boss swap into Velvet Choker. And they can play another 50 runs on the character and maybe generate another good result, which they're really happy with, which they can tell people about, without risking playing 50 runs on the character and winning less than they just did, which would provide evidence that their win rate isn't actually that high. If they do come back to the character after some time, they can say, I have a new idea for playing the character, so I'm going to try something different, which may result in my win rate being lower. Instead of saying, like, I'm going to do the thing that I know I'm capable of doing and win 80 to 85% of the time on the character again. It's kind of fascinating. As a strategy gamer, the way to treat generating impressive results as though it's a strategy game is like kind of interesting. It's a thing that I've thought about at some length while deciding that I have no real interest in engaging in it because Type 3, cheating in quotation marks in public. This is again a type of cheating that's in quotation marks, although this one does start to reach more into just clear cheating for me, in my opinion. So, because Spire is single player on our machines, etc., we have great liberties to mod it. We can use the console, stuff like that. And if people think others won't mind, or perhaps even with knowledge that some others will mind, we will sometimes do things in playing the game which are outside what you're actually allowed to do in a legitimate run. They might do something like use console to kill enemies in a fight where like they know that they have it set up so they can block perfectly. Maybe they might even like know, oh, I have it set up so I block this enemy every turn with frost orbs. The enemy can't outscale me. I have creative AI in play, and a bird face turn, so I can heal my health over the course of the fight. So I know that if I spend another 3 minutes here, I will full heal and kill the enemy. What I can do is just use the console to heal myself and kill the enemy. They might think that. Sure, whatever. Like, you can do that. Is that cheating? Like, it wouldn't be allowed in a tournament, right? But this is an issue with a competitive environment where nobody's setting the rules. Like, if you want to do that, no one can really tell you that you can't. But it may come off as kind of a dick move to a lot of people who do go through the motions of actually playing the game legitimately in order to generate the things that they are proud of doing, you know? Another one, which I think is more generally like people say you can't do this, is resetting a floor where you made a mistake. I have in my life reset floors where I've made mistakes in runs of Slay the Spire. And the places that I've found it good to do that have, I think, exclusively been shops, pretty much. And the reason is that in Slay the Spire 1, if you click on something in a shop and there's an empty space, and then you like open your deck viewer to look at your deck and close your deck viewer, the shop contents move so that the space isn't open anymore when you leave your deck viewer and go back into the shop. And so sometimes I've like clicked on something, checked my deck, closed my deck, and clicked the place where the other thing I wanted to buy was, and it's not there anymore, and I buy something else. And it's like, it's kind of like a waste of everyone here's time for me to continue playing the run with just like the wrong card in my deck. Like, that's just kind of silly. So I've reset floors in that way. So I like understand at least one way that your thought process can go, which leads to resetting floors in that way. Now, I've never done that in a run that I included in like an achievement, like a world record, or like this is the highest wins I've ever had in 100 runs or something like that. I've never done it in there. For those sorts of runs, I do care more about playing the game entirely legitimately. But yeah, I just mostly don't do this. And it's really interesting because in all the ways that if you do this, a lot of people will be like, that doesn't seem super legitimate. Shouldn't you like not be opening the console in order to like do that in a run? You get the other thing too. You get a bunch of people who are watching you like go through the actual motions which are actually required for you to win an actual legitimate run of Slay the Spire, and just saying like, why don't you just use the console to kill this enemy? Like, what, aren't we just wasting our time here? Which is kind of fascinating, right? Like that the band of opinions about what correct behavior there is wide enough that there are people assuming that the default you should do is just open the console and put a console command in while you're playing the game. I think that's fascinating. Lots of people also recommend resetting floor when I like make a mistake or something like that. Like, lots of people assume that that is like the normal thing to do. So different people have different like ideas about decorum and playing the game, or different things are or are not acceptable. And, you know, that's just a thing that happens when you have no like community consensus about what the rules of the game are. It is what it is. But after that happens, it's kind of then up to others to work out what to do with this. And maybe they think it's fine, especially if it's in service of entertainment rather than competitiveness. I think it's completely fine. But also, like, maybe they don't think it's fine, in which case, what happens then? So, this segment, while those previous points were things that I dealt with in Slay the Spire 1, this segment felt most important because of console use in Slay the Spire 2 right now, which has just, like, made me sad. Like emotionally deflated and sad, genuinely. So I know the Slay the Spire devs. I've, like, talked to them about their game and stuff. I've heard them express how excited they are to have people play the game. I've, like, talked to them a little bit about how much I'm enjoying it, and I, like, have heard from them about, like, how much they liked seeing me encounter a new card for the first time, or, like, climbing the ascensions they were watching me, stuff like that. I know Casey and Anthony. We are, like, know each other in the real world, etc. Cool. So maybe that's part of my emotional attachment to this. And I feel like it's important to mention that here because, like, maybe I'm just completely, like, off base. But what I want to say, like, separate from that, is that Slay the Spire 1 is perhaps the best video game ever made, and Slay the Spire 2 might be better than it, especially after another 2 years of improvement. The game's very, very good. So was Slay the Spire 1. Incredible, awesome games. People worked very hard on both of them. Most recently, people have worked very hard on Slay the Spire 2 and the release of Slay the Spire 2. They've created an epoch system, which, like, gives you lore and narrative as you climb the ascensions, which they spent a lot of time on. They've, like, Slay the Spire is one of the first games where you, like, got experience and got unlocks, and they've tried to build a system where a new player gets experience and gets unlocks to unlock the game and view it in a certain way and learn it in a certain way and come to understand and appreciate the characters in a certain way. And they spent years doing that thing. And a lot of the people who seem like they care about competitive results in Slay the Spire, one of the first things they did on stream when Slay the Spire 2 came out was use the console to just unlock everything in the game, completely skip the Ascension climb, which took other people 50 plus hours, so just, like, skip 50 hours ahead, and then start playing on Ascension 10 with seemingly the express purpose of, like, making comments on Ascension 10 balance despite having not played the previous Ascensions, and generate impressive achievements which they could put in YouTube titles. Like, I got the first rotating Ascension 10 Slay the Spire win streak, or whatever. Like, okay, the first thing you did when you installed the game was use the console to skip to Ascension 10, which other people didn't do. Are you going to acknowledge that in any part of claiming this achievement? So, that's made me really just quite sad and frustrated. It's frustrating that, like, early comments about the balance of the game were made by people who hadn't played the Ascension system and had a lot of the cards very wrong because they were rushing to put out, like, balance claims about Ascension 10. But also, like, the devs didn't have any intention of people playing at Ascension 10 for the first week of the game, probably. Like, why are you, like, starting to yell about how Ascension 10 is a certain way and has to be changed in a certain way and stuff like that, when even people who are playing the game as a full-time job aren't there yet? So, I don't know. That rubbed me the wrong way, like, a lot. And I don't know. I'm just, like, kind of gonna move on with my life, I guess. But that happened. And I feel like just saying out loud that, like, when you do that, it dampens and wears down community collaboration and goodwill, is what I've said in this slide. I just feel like saying that out loud is maybe, like, important to say. Like, Yeah. um, so how I try to avoid this is generally that I don't do this. I don't like use the console to skip things or get ahead at things, stuff like that. One of the most concerning things, Slay the Spire, Carl Jobst. I don't speak the language that his name is from, so I apologize that I am not saying his name right. Almost certainly. Says that a lot of people who cheat at strategy games do not cheat to do something that they couldn't do. They cheat to do something that they could do, but achieve it faster. You do not see people cheating. I guess he talks more about speedruns and strategy games, but like you don't see people cheating in speedruns, at least the most nefarious cheaters of speedruns. You don't see them cheating in order to get a speedrun that they know that they couldn't do. The motivation for cheating for people is often like they know that they can get that result for this thing, and they've probably like done some like mental math and been like, that would take me 50 hours of trying in order to get that result. And the reason that they cheat is that they're able to get the result without having to put the 50 hours of effort in. That is like the friction point that pushes somebody into cheating, is like understanding where the finish line is, understanding that there is a lot of labor between them and the finish line, understanding that they could use a cheat to skip all of the labor. Now, I'm not saying that that's how all friction works, or sorry, all cheating works or anything like that, but that is a specific motivation that has been brought up by him and that I've seen echoed by others. And that's exactly what this was. So in a community with like no communal rule system and stuff like that, and like achievements and recognition being based on like social dynamics and trust and things, like seeing people act in exactly that way makes me not trust it very much. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't do this. I try to play runs legitimately. Now, I'm aware I'm like doing stuff that is maybe like some people would probably not like that I have monster AI in my spreadsheet, which says what the monsters have, and then I've modded it so that I can see this in fights. Some people might find it unfair that I'm tracking what events have what win rates for myself and then referencing those things while I play runs or something like that. That's kind of fair. I am modifying my game in a way that makes the game like kind of more easy for me. I don't know. It's kind of fair. I'm kind of doing this myself. I guess my feeling on it is that if the community in general seemed like it was against people modifying their game in order to achieve things in the game, I probably wouldn't do this. But in a community where I see that people are doing that, like other people might use that to get a really cool achievement that is awesome for them and they can talk about and everything. My impulse is to use it to like make my stream more enjoyable for viewers. So if somebody opens the gate for modifying your game in a way that like doesn't require you to play the game legitimately anymore and you're allowed to mod it to do things and stuff like that, my impulse is going to be to make something that's like cool to look at on stream and builds the narrative of what's going on and lets people understand the monsters better and stuff like that. So yeah, I do try to modify my game and things like that sometimes, but it is in service of entertainment. That's what I try to do. So I put enemy move trees on screen so my viewers can see what I'm talking about instead of me looking at an off-screen notebook while playing. Like, I don't want to have to look at the wiki while I'm streaming. I don't want to have to like go offline and study the monsters because during a show I'm not going to want to like take a moment to refresh myself on exactly how the AI tree for one of the enemies works, etc. Right? So I'm putting the enemy move trees on screen so I can see them easily in a way that doesn't break the entertainment flow, and so you can see them as well so that you can enjoy that. The last time I reset a floor was when I got a chest with bowler hat in it, and I was curious whether it was possible to click up bowler hat before the gold got given to you to get 25% more gold somehow. So I was like opening it. I reset the floor like 3 times to see if I could like pixel click the bowler hat as it came out of the chest before the gold came in. I wasn't able to. If somebody else can, that would be cool to hear about. But yeah, I do stuff like that because it's informative and fun. And, you know, if I saw that people cared more about the game integrity, I probably wouldn't. But this is the world that we actually live in, I guess. Type 4. Actual cheating. Low tech. We are now into ways to cheat, which I think everyone would unanimously agree are actually cheating. And here are some which require next to no technical knowledge about the game. This is a bit tricky. This gets into stuff which we might like kind of get a sense is happening, but not be able to prove, especially if there's very little in the way of a paper trail about somebody's results and stuff like that. One thing could be downloading a God mode mod. And perhaps you can pair it with a mod which hides that your game is modded or presents that mod as something else. God mode mods exist. I haven't actually looked to see if there are mods which make your game appear unmodded, but it wouldn't surprise me if there were. It's possible that that's like against terms of service of modding hosting sites, and so there aren't any, but you could certainly write one, I assume. I don't know. 2, another one, runs from your run history folder going missing, resulting in your results being much better than they actually were. B. This is something that we can't really monitor at all. One of the weird things about world record streaks is in order to get a world record streak, in theory, what you have to do is like load up Twitch or YouTube or something and live stream yourself playing the game. And the point there is that you're creating a record of you playing the game. That's the record part in world record, right? So the two elements of a world record are 1, it's the longest in the world, and 2, it's recorded. It's the longest recorded one in the world. It isn't enough to just do it without having recorded it. That wouldn't be a world record. It's interesting because you say record with different stress on the word, but that's literally what the record is, right? It's record. You need to record it. That's why it's a record. They're the same word. Record. You get the point. I'm belaboring something that I don't need to, because I find it funny. Anyway, so one thing that I've suspected in my life but never been able to show is sometimes people with like smaller streams will have world record streaks that are over the course of large amounts of time and aren't very heavily recognized. And I think that's cool. I like kind of want to recognize them. But something that always like dampens that for me is I have no way of telling whether they like deleted streams where they lost, right? So you kind of not only have to have it recorded, but you also have to have like a steady enough, large enough audience that there's like understanding that people are going to call you out on doing it wrong. You might think that's ludicrous. If someone had 5 people watching them and they like lost a run where they were claiming they had a streak and then deleted it, like those 5 people would just tell everyone, like, what are you even talking about? That's insane. Viewer, I shit you not. The first time that this came up for me, a guy abandoned run like 12 floors into a run that wasn't going very well in front of 300 people and said it didn't count, and then started a new run. And the only reason I was watching his VOD was that the next day he published on Reddit talking about how he had set a new rotating world record for Slay the Spire and wanted everyone to tune into his stream the next day to see if he could extend it. I thought that was cool because I had the rotating world record for Slay the Spire. And I thought, oh, that's awesome that another person I haven't heard of because I didn't know that they were good is challenging for that. I want to check out their play and see what they do. So I watched his stream, and he wasn't very good at the game. He was resetting every floor, and he lost a run in the middle of one of his streaks and directly told all the people watching him that it didn't count. So I am not basing this on idle speculation that it could happen. I am a wary and grizzled veteran of the online strategy game space at this point in my life. Anyway, another way to do actual cheating, which is low tech, is resetting floors to replay with full knowledge of RNG and draw pile order, which a lot of you probably do. A lot of people are like, hey, do you do that? Do you think it's a viable learning tool, etc., etc., etc.? Maybe that'd be an interesting new video to do. I don't know. My vibe is like, no, not really. But it's not like a terrible learning tool either. It's just like playing another run or thinking before you made the mistake would be better for learning than resetting the floor. Something that resetting the floor risks doing is like failing to teach you that the deck you made was bad, because you're able to win fights which the deck deserves to lose by cheating, which isn't the best way to learn the game, probably. But I don't know. I've never really done that, so it's possible it's way more valuable than I realize in some way. I don't know. What is the effect of this sort of cheating, this low-tech cheating? One of the big things is that casually reported results in this game are kind of impossible to believe. If a viewer have never seen play, claims that they win 70% of their runs, for starters, they could just be making that up. Very possible. They could be making it up following the example of a popular content creator who did something similar. But anyway, they could also mean that they are using mods, which give them advantages, and just not mentioning that, or they're resetting floors and achieving that win rate, or whatever. They could mean a variety of things. A lot of this wouldn't even conceptually in their mind be cheating, because we don't have a communally understood way that you're meant to play the game. And to me, it's obvious that you don't like save and reload in order to get an achievement in a game. To me, that's been obviously cheating since I was like 6. Like, I actually remember the thrill of finding out that I could save and reload in Civilization 1, I think, or maybe 2, in order to change the results of getting a goodie hut. I remember the thrill, the like titillation at doing something I wasn't supposed to do when I was 6. Like, I was intelligent enough when I was 6 to understand that that was cheating. So I don't know. Do people really not think that's cheating, or do they think that it's just like cheating and it's okay or something? I don't really know. I don't live in other people's heads, but I know what it's like in my head, I guess. Another effect of this sort of cheating is that attempts at global competition, like true global competition, collapse extremely quickly. And so I've talked a bit about how competition is reputation based, where people like get certain achievements and then like talk about how they're really good because they got that achievement, and then their fans talk about how they're really good because they got that achievement and stuff like that. But one reason that competition has to be reputation based to some extent is that it can't really be based on presentable results, because presentable results are extremely easy to counterfeit. If we had true global competition in Slay the Spire, like anyone could like bring to the subreddit an example of them winning 10 runs in a row or something like that, people could just fabricate them. So one of the reasons that we only talk about content creators as being among the best players of the game is that they're the only people we see playing the game in a way that we can like kind of verify and feel confident is legitimate. Yeah. Which leads to a very shrunk competitive space, unfortunately. And then also global competition mega grid offers like daily runs just gets overrun by people who are cheating in some way. I remember in Slay the Spire 1, daily runs, like the top results was just people who had hacked their score to be like the highest score you could give. Okay. I feel like as the game matured, that kind of died out, presumably because people were so bored of doing it. Like, imagine doing that. I don't know. I guess I can imagine that being fun like one time if I was like young and excited about the idea of seeing my name at the top of a leader or something. I guess I can kind of get it. But I guess I don't really understand how you could be interested in doing it more than one time. Anyway, how I try to avoid actual cheating low tech is that I don't. That's simple enough for me. But also in terms of trying to dampen it in the like wider community, like try to lessen it as a problem for everyone else. Some things I try to do is I try to make it clear that good players still lose runs, and that there's nothing wrong or shameful about me losing a run, and if anything, it's a large part of the fun. Like a lot of the times that I lose, I stress how like close the run was, how interesting it was. Sometimes I'm kind of in a bad mood. Sometimes like you kind of wish you won. Sometimes you feel a little bit dumb because you made a silly mistake and stuff like that. It's hard to always be positive every time you lose, but a lot of the time that I lose, like some of my best runs are runs that I lose. I'll be like, oh my god, that run was so cool. I cannot believe we made it to the final boss with that deck. It was really bad, but we almost won anyway. Stuff like that. Yeah, I just think that focusing on the fact that losing is fun and not shameful removes a lot of the incentive for people to cheat at games and encourages people to play games in ways which are much more enjoyable. I also try to make it clear why I'm doing things when I do them. I think this is important because that's where I try to base my authority that I'm a good player. And I don't try to say that I'm the best player or that I have the best ideas about the game or anything like that, but what I'm trying to make clear is that I can communicate complex and intelligent thoughts about how to play the game to you, which are enjoyable to listen to and valuable for enjoying the game on your own. What I'm trying to do as a content creator. Yeah, and if that's what I'm trying to do as a content creator, and what I'm trying to do as a content creator is not like get the most impressive result possible, then the idea of me cheating is less threatening to anyone. Like, I haven't really changed that much as a player or person, I don't think. Maybe a little bit more as a person over the last like 5 years. But when I held world records in Slay the Spire 1, so many people would like say like, is Jorbs cheating? He seems like he's cheating. His win rates are really high. Is he cheating? Are we sure he isn't cheating? Stuff like that. It was like a constant thing. I play the game like not that much different now, and almost nobody mentions the idea that I could be cheating, because like my value in the space isn't that I've got the coolest achievement, it's that I'm fun to listen, talk to about cards, and analysis about the game is fun, stuff like that. Number 4 is that I acknowledge when I got lucky, and I dampen my achievements by mentioning ways in which I was lucky to achieve them rather than presenting them as though they are the low end of what I believe myself to be capable of. I think this is a fairly big deal. If you like get the best result you've ever had and your action afterwards is to talk about how you're like just the best ever and this game's really easy and it has no challenge for you and everything like that, well, thanks for the sub. Perhaps an extremely appropriate name for this moment. Anyway, if that's what you do when you have that result, like how it comes off to a lot of people is that you're a little bit detached from reality. Like you're on a winner's high. You're like, tilt goes both ways in games. If you lose a lot, you tilt and stop making rational decisions. But if you win a lot, you also tilt and stop making rational decisions in a different way. And it kind of reads like that if someone's like become the first person to do something on a character and they're like, I have solved the character, it's impossible to lose, I will win every run from here until the end of time, this is how everyone can do it, the character is now dead, it's solved, there's no reason to continue playing it. Like, everyone watching someone say that is able to be like, that doesn't really seem right. Now, maybe that isn't how you feel. Maybe you're like, oh, wow, look, this guy is so cool. He's really like solved the game and everything. But that's not, I think, how most people who play the game like at a competitive, like strong level feel reading something like that. So when people say stuff like that, I'm trying to work out exactly how to tie this into low-tech cheating. I think the point I'm trying to make by acknowledging that my achievements are like the high rolls among my dataset, basically. Like if I look at 500 runs that I've played, I can identify the spot where I got the longest win streak or whatever, or the 50 runs where I got the highest win rate, but I can also identify that they are like the highest peaks in this data set, right? So I got a little bit lucky there. I think by doing that, I just kind of dampen the idea that I might be cheating in order to achieve those results. If I'm presenting those results in a way that seems like level-headed and reasonable instead of presenting them as though they make me special and really cool, there's much less reason for someone to think that I'm cheating in order to get them, because like I'm just not getting that much out of them. Or not trying to, I don't know. Type 5 cheating is the worst type of cheating. Probably. But I don't actually know, because I don't actually know how much type 5 cheating there is. This is the one which gets conceptual and which you might have a lot of trouble conceptualizing. But you can modify this game. The game's decompilable. I am not an incredible coder, but I have already in 2 months written a lot of mods for Slay the Spire 2, which do a lot of stuff, including looking inside Slay the Spire 2 at things which are happening and writing that stuff down. And if I wanted to, I could be having those mods like write stuff down for me, which was valuable for winning the run while I was playing the run. And other people can do stuff like that too. You can do that without a mod. You can just read the memory of the game. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how Slay the Relics works. I guess that's a mod. But yeah, if you look at like Twitch overlays for games, often they are reading memory of the game rather than using a mod. You can write a program which just reads a game's memory and tells you what memory values are, instead of like being a visible mod, which will say one mod running and mouse over it and it says like super cheat god mode 3000 or whatever is the mod title. It doesn't have to say that. It can be a program running on your computer that doesn't show up as a mod for the game, especially for a game which has decompilable source files and no anti-cheat, right? This is why companies which try to present multiplayer games with competitive integrity have like spyware that monitors your computer, because you might be running something on your computer which is making it so you're able to have an unfair advantage in the game, and they want to be able to detect the program. And somebody could write something like that for Slay the Spire. And somebody has. Somebody's done that for Slay the Spire 1, and somebody will or has done that for Slay the Spire 2. And I don't know where these programs are. I know that there are mods which you can download which are like public. I know about those. I haven't looked, I guess, for like hidden cheats. Maybe I could look. Kind of fun. But also, we're in a like world of coding nowadays where someone can like write their own mod for something, their own program for something with an LLM, and have something like this done in a day. It is not a tremendous amount of labor to get a cheat program which does something like tell you what the rewards are if you click on a certain button, or tell you what the order of your draw pile is, or tell you something else. And you can even write a program, if you want, which does things which modify the actual things you get in the game. So if it isn't enough for you to like basically have a frozen eye for free in every run or something like that, you could modify your game and do something to change the odds to put them in your favor in ways which are imperceptible to a viewer. So, for example, you could make it so that you always got one of the really good relics. You could, hey, say, there's a set of 10 really good relics. I want one of them to be my first relic if I'm ever playing a run where I've won the last 5 runs. And this could be a way that you just tilted the odds in your favor to make it so you got longer win streaks. There is just nothing stopping someone from doing this in Slay the Spire. There's no like competence gate. All somebody needs is an LLM to code something like that for them. There is no anti-cheat detection. There is no community-wide like attempt to stop something like that from happening. There is no like moderator pool where you could submit something that you think is suspicious to someone. In the past, when I have seen content creators cheat in ways which are highly visible and undeniable, the result of pointing out that it has happened has been for like half of the people to be like, oh, that's really shitty, they shouldn't have done that. And the other half of people to be like, I can't believe you're bringing this up. Content creator's my favorite. Why would you're just jealous of him. He's the best. There is a like threshold of community trust below which you just simply cannot even enforce prevention of cheating. Because like there's no structure within which to do it, and the people in the community don't care enough to help. And yeah, Slay the Spire, I think, is around about that zone, unfortunately. So, if somebody's doing that, we don't know, we won't know, they can do it forever. And because of this, the conversation about who the best Slay the Spire player is feels like a bad conversation to invest in. My window open? Oh shit, my window's open. Just a sec. Okay, sorry. It's like 1 a.m. right now, and these like little gnats are flying in, and I just saw a mosquito, and I was like, I have just never seen a mosquito inside my house before. And I realized that like we're airing out the downstairs, and I did not close all of the windows before it got dark. So yeah, cool. I've enjoyed this little subplot over the course of the video. I hope you have as well. Where was I? Yeah, conversation about who the best Slay the Spire player is in that context is unfortunately never going to be real. The problem isn't... Next slide, actually, does this actually happen? The problem isn't that, like, whoever it is you think is the best Slay the Spire player is almost certainly cheating. That's not the problem. In fact, I wouldn't say that that's true. I think that results that people have achieved in Slay the Spire are, like, reasonable, that I haven't seen people achieving things in Slay the Spire that feel like nobody else could achieve them. It kind of broadly feels like, for the most part, a lot of the competition in Slay the Spire has felt like it could be legitimate. The problem is that there are so many people playing this game, and there are so many people who are close in skill to each other at the top. And this might surprise you if, like, your exposure to reading about Slay the Spire is, like, reading people on subreddits talking about who's better and how, like, some people are untouchable and stuff like that. But I do not think the skill differentiation at the top of Slay the Spire is very high at all. I think that, like, there's nobody who's more than, like, 4% above everybody else, like, anywhere, basically, in terms of win rate. There's low skill differentiation, and there are lots of people playing lots of runs, and what you usually see is that the person who plays the most runs at a high level has the most impressive achievements. No surprise. It helps if they are subsectioning the runs in ways which lend themselves to achievements. No surprise. They are often beaten by other people, including people that we haven't heard much of, which is also, like, not really that big a surprise. I think a narrative about competition Slay the Spire is that, like, there are 10 people who are just way better than everyone else and nobody else can compete with them. But, like, the truth about competition Slay the Spire is there are just not very many people who care to do it. And so when you see results happen in competitive sort of Slay the Spire settings, you see them happen from the same people repeatedly because those are the only people trying to get them. And sometimes you see somebody else come in and get some results, and that's because they started wanting to for the first time, and they hadn't before. It's not like they were suddenly one of the best players in the world. I mean, I guess they are for that definition of best player in the world. But like, it's not like they had leaps and bounds of increase in their capabilities as a human being or whatever. It's just like the game's not impossible to approach from a competitive level. And if you choose to do that and you want to get better at the game, also all of the people who have world records are like streaming them and talking about why they're picking the cards they're picking and why they're doing things. So your ability to learn the game is pretty easy. It's like live on Twitch or whatever, so you can do that. So my observation of competition Slay the Spire so far in my life feels like it could easily be a bunch of people not cheating. And that is a happy thing to believe. But it just isn't the case in communities like that, or this, that is necessarily true, and I have no guarantee that it is true, unfortunately. Some formative things for me, recently, I used to really like Riolu, Trackmania creator. Turns out he was cheating for 10 years. I thought he was a personable guy. I liked his stream. He played the Cup of the Day, and he was really good. I think he played in some competition as well. And he had lots and lots of world records playing the game offline. And I didn't really know what that meant, to be honest. I'm not a serious Trackmania competitor, but it seemed like a lot of his world records were in other games that weren't as popular as the main game that people seemed to play. And it always kind of seemed weird to me that he would like play world records offline. Like, as a streamer, if your job is to play Trackmania in front of an audience, I feel like a lot of people don't finish their stream and then play Trackmania more. I feel like that's like, a lot of people don't do that, but he did that. And maybe lots of people do that, actually. Maybe I'm the weird one. And did I like finish playing Slay the Spire and then don't really play Slay the Spire more off stream? No. But anyway, should not leave my windows open at night. Someday I'm going to get screens for my windows, and that'll be really nice. It turned out that he was using Cheat Hack to slow the game down. It's a racing game, and he was like playing it at 30% speed or whatever, so he could just take the corners much, much, much more precisely. And once people started analyzing replays, they were like, oh, this is really obvious. And not only was it really obvious, it also extended back 10 years. And yeah, Trackmania was a little bit comparable in terms of like how available a channel was via which to make this apparent to people. And so basically the two largest Trackmania content creators, previously friends, one of them was like, hey, the other guy has been cheating for 10 years. I just spent like 6 months verifying this extremely diligently and reached out to him privately to try to resolve it. He hasn't come clean. I'm just going to tell everyone now. Told everyone. And then the other guy stopped streaming, and it was fucking wild. And that was kind of a landmark moment in my trust of strategy gamers. Obviously, I've had strategy gamers cheat against me as well, but like actually experiencing what it was like to watch a content creator think they were good at the game. I mean, Riolu was good at the game. Was the fascinating thing. He was like one of the better players in the world. He was able to compete without cheating in like the professional events. And that's why him cheating allowed him to get so many world records, because he was good enough to understand what you had to do on that track to get that world record. And he could see that if he spent 50 hours trying to get that world record, he could get it. And he understood that he could use a cheat to reduce the effort by a factor of 10 or more, get the world record much more quickly. This is so funny. Gnats. I have a bunch of gnats in my yard, especially in the spring. Oh well. And that can happen in Slay the Spire. I don't intend to name any names because I don't want to speak any evils into the world. But like, when somebody comes into Slay the Spire and starts achieving lots of things that other people haven't achieved before, One of the reasons that that could happen is that they've come to Slay the Spire, they're really good at the game, they're highly dedicated to it, they're playing it super hard, they're studying hard, they're playing runs cleanly and well, making good decisions, and getting rewards for it. That's one way that that can happen. Another way it can happen is that they're kind of framing it in a way that's really advantageous to them. Like they're saying, like, I want to do this thing. Nobody else is actually trying to do that thing. So when they try to do that thing, they achieve it. And, you know, that's cool. That isn't cheating necessarily or whatever, but that's another way that it can happen. Another way that it can happen is that they're cheating. And I don't know if anybody's cheating in Slay the Spire or anybody has cheated in Slay the Spire. I would never be able to detect somebody doing that. I assume they would be personable and fun to watch. They would have intelligent things to say about the cards. Like, this sort of cheating does not require that you're bad at the game. This sort of cheating is empowered by you being good at the game. I don't know if anyone's doing that, and there's no way for me to know, and for me, that makes me not want to compete with the Spire, and makes me very hesitant about people who are talking about being better than other people at the game and stuff like that. Some other formative moments recently. Dream, one of the largest content creators in the world, very visibly cheated in Minecraft speedrunning. And then he cheated more in other Minecraft competitive events. Got banned from those competitive events. A big, like, stir happened over whether he was actually cheating in Minecraft or not, because he was doing the sort of cheating where you modify your game to have things happen more favorably to you, which meant that the proof that he was cheating was statistical rather than tangible. So it was like, well, this would never happen over the course of the entire universe. This is too lucky. Can't be that lucky. Which, like, it's hard to make a statistical proof, right? And so he's, like, without a doubt been cheating a bunch, but he's still one of the most popular content creators in the world and for that game and stuff. Actually, I guess I don't know. Maybe people have stopped watching Dream. I don't know. But that one was very instructive for me because, like, you see somebody who's cheating and there's incontrovertible proof that they're cheating and they're just still at the top of that community. Not great. There was another one that I remember running into recently, but I can't remember what it was. That one's Dream. Sorry, I just made a list of them. Oh yeah, in the Civ 6 multiplayer community. I played a lot of Civ 5 multiplayer back in the day, and so I would then watch Civ 5 multiplayer and eventually started watching Civ 6 multiplayer as like a wind down sort of thing. And the Civ 6 community, a guy was very clearly taking the save for the start of a Civ 6 game, opening it in an external program as though it was a single player save file, which allowed him to see the entire map, and then pathing through the multiplayer game with map hacks, basically. And this was very obvious from watching how the pathing happened for his moves. He was number one in the Civ 6 multiplayer community on, like, the leaderboards for a long time. And when he got called out, there was discussion about whether the proof was strong enough to actually ban him, but eventually he did get banned. And then, like, probably there were more people cheating in the same way. Almost certainly there were more people cheating in the same way. But when the creator, and again, this was a situation where a large creator was making this accusation, because it doesn't seem like accusations like this, like, carry any weight unless a large creator makes the accusation. If the strength of someone's concept of being a really good person is based on their status as a large creator saying they're a really big person, really good at the game, and you need a different large creator to say, like, they're cheating. It seems to be how it goes in a lot of these communities. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. But a large creator was like, yeah, these two people are cheating as well. I think he made a really big stink about one of them being invited to a, like, tournament with $1,000 prize pool or something when the investigation on whether he was cheating was ongoing or something like that, and he was like a sub for somebody else who dropped out last minute. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, The result of that was like the moderation team of the community eventually was like, look, you're accusing too many people of cheating. You got to get out of your community. And so the content creator who was a moderator of the community got kicked off the moderation board, kicked out of the community, and started his own Civ 6 community. So not only does this happen, but the resolution of it is not good. The Trackmania resolution was better than the others, but still not sort of ideal, I guess one might say. So, the effect of this sort of cheating, whether it's happening or not, like even if it's not happening, it still has this effect. The fact that it could be happening still has this effect. The effect is that without mutual respect and enjoyment, Slay the Spire is completely incapable of supporting competition, basically. Every time someone overstates what they've done or does something that's gray area cheating to forward their achievements, the ability for competitors to look past the way in which we're playing a game with no defense against cheating is strained. For me to compete for world records in Slay the Spire 1 with the Crimson Blur and Baylor Lord and Terrence, something I had to do was I had to, like, come to terms within myself that I was trusting them. Like, they were good people, we were competing on level ground, we were competing fairly, stuff like that. And with those guys, I like talked to them somewhat extensively personally. I knew them well enough, we had mutual friends. I was like, okay, these people seem like okay people, and I competed with them. It's all right. I don't currently have those sorts of relationships with people who compete in Slay the Spire anymore. The reason specifically that I don't personally have those sorts of relationships with people who compete in Slay the Spire anymore is that I got, like, harassed by one of them for a long time, and a lot of the people who compete in Slay the Spire, like, were a fan of his and supported him harassing me for like 2 years with his channel and his community. I don't want to get into that here. But when that happened, my level of trust, my ability to say, like, these are good people, I trust that they're above board and, like, will act ethically and reasonably, got low enough that I didn't want to compete with them anymore. So, I think if there is intended to be any sort of competitive environment, competitive community in Slay the Spire, like, absolutely the first thing that has to happen is, like, people have to stop doing all the other shit I've mentioned. Like, you can't be, like, consoling to unlock Ascension 10 and then bragging about how you got the first Ascension 10 world record. Like, did you even do that? I don't know, but also don't brag about that like that. Don't do the console thing like that. Don't, like, take a result that you had and present it standalone as though it's representative of everything about your skill without presenting your other results that you've had. Don't overstate your things about the game and say that you can never lose and that, like, the game's really easy for you and stuff like that. There's a lot of, like, ego embiggening, which is rewarded by social media algorithms, stuff like that. So I get people, like, playing the game and trying to get their channel on your YouTube recommendations or whatever. But a result of doing that stuff is that other people do not trust you anymore. You do not seem like you are above board. Don't seem like you're going to be fun to have friendly competition with in a game which cannot support anything other than friendly competition. And when people like that, like, talk about their achievements and expect other people to respect them and applaud them for those achievements, the other people who, like, often are not personally trying to get achievements like that because of these people and the way they act, like, they're not necessarily going to, like, applaud your achievements anymore. If you want people to applaud your achievements, you have to, like, applaud them back. Like, it's a mutual thing, right? It goes back and forth. And you have to, like, earn those achievements in ways which are fair and aren't unfair and are respectful to the game and the community and the other players in it. And yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Anyway. Yeah. This sort of cheating also means that we can't really have achievements mean as much as they might mean in other places. Like, if Faker wins the League of Legends 15 years in a row, everyone can be like, oh my god, Faker is just the greatest gamer of all time. But if someone wins the Slay the Spire 15 years in a row, you can't really do that. If anything, you have to be like, gee, it's a little suspicious that this person won 15 years in a row in a game with no anti-cheat and no oversight. Yeah. So, you know, you can get your achievements and it's awesome, but just like trying not to overstate what they mean, I guess. What I do to try to minimize the result of this on the community, I guess one thing I do is I like make a presentation like this just so there's more awareness of it. A lot of voices get lost in a world where people are playing fast and loose in order to try to have the loudest voice or whatever. But anyway, I tried not to overstate my achievements or what they mean. I don't broadly think I'm better than other people, which is a really useful starting block for not behaving like you're better than other people. And yeah, I don't want my achievements to prove that I'm better than other people. Instead of labeling my stream with some sort of achievement which implies that I'm doing something nobody else can do, I label my stream with some sort of achievement which shows that I'm dedicated to the game. Because that's what I think a viewer wants to see. That's what I want somebody who wants to watch my stream to care about. And it just like can be true. I have spent 10,000 hours making content for Slay the Spire 1, studying Slay the Spire 1, spent lots of time playing Slay the Spire 2. So for a long time, my stream title was just like, I have won Slay the Spire 2, Ascension 10 this many times so far. I spent 10,000 hours playing Slay the Spire 1. That was like the component of my stream title that was, this guy has something valuable to show me. That's how I personally demonstrated that. Other people demonstrate that in different ways. Their stream titles are jokes. When you click on their channel, they have tons of mods and fun things going off and like alerts and stuff like that. And that's fun. But when you have the statements that are like, I am the world record holder or something like that. What does that mean? Like, the game has lots of different world records. It's an early access game, so the patches are constantly updating. You haven't checked. Like a lot of these videos which are titled like that are like introduced or captioned with like, I don't know of any record longer than this. That's cool. If you're not capable of checking the entire world to see if there's a longer record than that, you can just say that you have a record that is this long. You don't have to claim it's a world record. You don't have to be the like officiating body of the world record in order to say what you've done. God. Anyway, a big thing for me is that I play the game primarily because it is enjoyable for me to play it sans outside interaction, so I don't feel super motivated by most of these things. And I avoid competition with people I don't trust extremely highly and haven't seen conduct themselves in ways which seem... Wait. I think I double negatived here. And who I've seen conduct themselves, and that seems better, and who I've seen conduct themselves in ways which seem honest and transparent in all of our interactions and their interactions with the community. There are creators in Slay the Spire who are like that, and a lot of them do not play the game competitively anymore, and that is not coincidental. That is cause and effect based off of how competitive Slay the Spire has functioned for the last 8 years. Overall thoughts? I made this video mostly because I wanted to get a sense of how other people have been doing this game and found that searching for such data was extremely misleading. That was kind of the genesis. I watched a podcast type thing where people said they were the best players and then tried to find the evidence of that and broadly couldn't, or found that it was made up or exaggerated much of the time. That was like kind of frustrating. I saw a bunch of declarative statements about the balance of the game by people who had used console to ruin the game for themselves, many of which didn't even seem like particularly convincing statements. This has been ongoing since the game came out. Like Like when I was at like Ascension 7, people started asking me why I picked Snakebite, because like the entirety of the subreddit was memeing about how Snakebite was a terrible card. It's just a completely fine card. It's like Silence highest damage output common, and it has retain. I don't know. But that was for me one of the jarring moments at the start of playing the game, where it was like, oh, I'm trying to like play the game and enjoy it. Other people are like trying to make a stir. Yeah. I saw a bunch of I do not think Slay the Spire supports this sort of ego well due to structure, but I don't want to directly flame at their creators, so this was sort of the best thing I could come up with saying. The other thing, like, even if there's like incontrovertible proof that someone's cheating, you can't say, hey, that person's cheating. Like, there's no way to communicate about this to like collectively stop it from happening, really. This is very much a thing where we all have to behave well in order for the community to be good. And if we don't behave well, the community becomes shit, and other people can't really do anything to stop us from doing that to ourselves. So, overall thoughts number 2, I love Slay the Spire, but seeing how the community forms itself around algorithmic bait and ego from people who are excited to say massive things about themselves and each other is very draining to me. It makes me not love the Slay the Spire community anywhere near as much. It's very tiresome to hear arguments from authority from people who have manufactured their own authority and don't have much of interest to actually say. It feels very loud and boring and doesn't reflect the Spire community that I came to love when I first found the game, and I don't have a solution. I remember when like I was first learning Slay the Spire, though. Slay the Spire 1. We were all trying to work out how to play Ironclad and Silent. It was a new game. And people would write like paragraphs of analysis to each other. Like, say we were talking about Snakebite, we would have paragraphs of like, well, this card does this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. I find it's really good in this fight. I've had a lot of success with it in decks which do this. And on the subreddit, there would be like threads of 20 comments going back and forth where people were writing paragraphs about like, yeah, and I saw this other player do this thing with it and stuff like that. And it felt nice, right? It felt fun to be on the subreddit. And now I will sometimes try to have conversations like that on the subreddit, like once every 6 months or something. I go to the subreddit to try again. And like the first thing I get almost always is that I should watch somebody else and see what they do because they're like the best at the game or whatever. It's like people don't feel like it's valid or allowed to engage in having an opinion about a card and saying like, I like this thing, here's why, and developing that opinion and writing an extended thing and like having constructive thoughts and critical thoughts. And instead, it's like a bunch of people talking about whether or not a card is good according to some content creator who has made some sort of clickbait title on the internet. So, I don't know. I think I'll probably start doing daily chats on different cards, because that's a good way, I think, of jumpstarting an analytical conversation about cards. But it's like, it's also kind of loud enough and angry enough out there that to some extent making content about Slay the Spire, like, I feel like I should find a smaller game. Like, there have been times booting up Slay the Spire 2 where I've been like thinking about strategies and stuff like that, and thinking about, do I want to talk about those strategies like in public in this community? And then thinking like, oh, maybe I should like go play Against the Storm or like some smaller game, or I could write a strategy post about the game, or Brotato, and like write a strategy post about the game And the people who respond to it will be like, oh, this was an interesting post. Or be like, hey, I thought that this thing was good and this thing was good. Have you tried that out? Instead of being like, the last time I wrote a lengthy strategy post on the Slay the Spire subreddit, it was pulled up on another content creator's stream, made fun of, and they sent all of their viewers to downvote it. Their viewers came to my stream to make fun of me, and the thing got downvote brigaded and had a bunch of poop emojis left on all the tier lists I made. And it still got 2,000 net upvotes, but the fact that that happened made me not really write another one of those ever again. So I don't know. That's kind of up to everybody, right? To not do that. And I don't know. People are going to do it. And fuck me. but that is my thought about cheating in Slay the Spire. I know that a lot of this was not exactly about cheating, but I think in the context of trying to gain an unfair advantage outside of the literal rules of the internal game that we're playing, cheating can extend in ways that we overlook, and I'm just not sure what else to call it sometimes when it does. And I'm not trying to say that anybody's a bad person or anything like that, but I just wanted to share what it's like to be a content creator in this community while this goes on. Yeah. Bye-bye.